I was about 5 years old. Every weekend, I would go with my parents to visit an aunt who lived in the Ayotla community, in the municipality of Ixtapaluca, in the state of Mexico. Every time we went, I rode in my parents' car with my 2 younger sisters, and I always preferred to sit by the window because I would get dizzy. So I spent the whole trip looking out. To get to my aunt's house, my dad always took the same route. We passed the same streets, but there was one street that was especially busy, and it made me feel afraid. As the visits went on, I realized that I always saw the same person. It was a person of unusual height, smaller than me, and I've never been tall. I also remember that when I was little, I knew there were people called dwarfs, but when I think about it now, it looked more like the stature of a baby, and that was what caught my attention most at first. He was wearing a high-waisted hat, and he had such a long beard that I can't remember exactly how his clothes looked. But I'll never forget his gaze. Every time we passed by that street, he was there, walking among all the people who were going in the opposite direction. At first, I was surprised that no one seemed to notice him. People walked right by as if nothing was strange, without turning their heads, and without getting alarmed by his appearance. Because of that, I became curious. Every time we passed that street, I tried to look for him, and I always found him, walking in the same direction, with the same appearance. Then my doubts grew. I started to wonder why I always found him there no matter what time it was. Little by little, the doubts turned into something restless, until the day he realized I was there too. That was when the fear really started. Now he looked at me every time we passed. His eyes followed me as I rode away in the car, strong, but not angry, not uncomfortable. Just very cold and deep. And the more I noticed it, the more afraid I became, until I reached the point of hiding when we passed by. But even with the fear, my curiosity was stronger. I always ended up looking again, and he was always there, as if he were waiting for me too. Eventually, I couldn't handle all those sensations anymore. So when we passed by, I asked my younger sister, she was 3 years old at the time, if she also saw him. She said yes. At that moment, I felt a little calmer, because I wasn't the only one who seemed to see it, but the fear didn't go away. A couple of times later, I decided to ask my parents as well. I let so much time pass because they had taught us not to judge others for their appearance, and I was afraid they would scold me. But one day, when I saw him again, I finally asked them if they were going to see him too. They told me no, they didn't see anything. Even though I insisted, because he kept looking at me, my parents didn't believe me. My desperation and fear got worse every time I heard them say they couldn't see it. Not long after that, we stopped going to visit because my aunt died. And because of that, along with all the questions I kept asking my parents, we never went back to that place to visit the relatives who still lived there. I don't know what made me forget the experience, but it wasn't until I was 12 years old that I remembered it again. One day, while watching scary videos with friends, they showed me one where a supposed elf appeared. I later learned it was fake, but when I watched it, I remembered my story, because the elf in the video was similar to the being I had seen as a child. Now I'm 22 years old, and sometimes I pass by that area again, but I've never seen him again. For the last few years, we've lived in an apartment building in the Doctores neighborhood, near Cuauhtémoc Avenue. It's a pretty quiet place, even though in other parts of the neighborhood there's often a lot of crime. We live on the last floor, and in summer we sometimes leave the apartment door open, only with the outer fence, without even adding an extra lock. Everything changed when we started noticing what some neighbors on the floor below were doing. Since the building has an L shape, from our laundry area we can see the space where the other sector's apartments wash. At first, I don't know if it was just that people were moving around and we never paid attention, but one morning, early, I woke up because of a burnt smell. When I went out to the laundry area, I saw the neighbors of the apartment below apparently burning something. The smell was like burnt hair, but soon I realized it wasn't hair, it was feathers. They were burning feathers from an animal that looked like it was still alive. I was terrified, but I went back to sleep. The next day, I talked to my parents about where we could report what they were doing to animals. I told my mom, and when she asked other neighbors, they warned her that it would be best to leave those people alone and not get involved. After that warning, we never brought it up again. And in that apartment, there's a lady in particular that scares me even when I only find her on the stairs. She doesn't dress strangely and she doesn't look horrible. But there's something in her eyes, something in her smile, something that gives me chills. Last weekend, my friend came over. My parents weren't home, and because it was hot, we left the door open while we played video games. Then we heard a sound again. We looked over toward that apartment and saw the woman there, as if she were pulling something out. She was killing very small white pigeons, pulling their heads off while doing it with total normality, the way someone cuts flowers. Before I could say anything, my friend shouted, "Hey, damn old woman." And I felt like someone had dumped cold water on me. The woman turned around and looked at me, without saying a word, straight at where we were. I grabbed my friend and told him we weren't going to mess with those people. While I was trying to explain, I heard slow footsteps through the hallway, moving toward our door. I remembered it was open, and I ran to close it. Once it was closed, the lady knocked once, then paused. She stayed standing there for several minutes right in front of the door. I know because we could see her feet under the door. She didn't say anything. She didn't tell my mom either. But after that happened, I swear that nobody in our home hears steps or voices in the mornings. Sometimes, even from my room, I've heard things in the kitchen, moving dishes, or dragging objects, when nobody is awake. Maybe you'll think I'm overreacting. But since then, I honestly feel like there's something with us in this house. I'll tell you more on another occasion. Thank you for listening.